Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Good morning, guys. Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. You are watching Puck Time. I'm Andrew McInnis. I have Carmine and Bianco with me and Buster in his usual Tuesday spot here. Some great games to break down, including Florida Panthers, Nashville Predators, the Flyers and the St. Louis Blues, the Jackets and the Leafs, and of course the nightcap with the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. Some pretty good games yesterday. We had a nice upset to start the day there with the Boston Bruins. And, of course, a nice upset at the end of the night with the Montreal Canadiens. Massive upset there. And who else to do it against but the Toronto Maple Leafs? I'm excited about that. 4-2 night with me. Cash on that Mitch Marner prop again. Guys, if you aren't hopping on his over 2.5 shots or his points or goals props, you are missing out. But a pretty good night for me. Besides the early games, Carm... I always tell people to follow us on Twitter and make sure they're, looking at our tweets with Puck Time Twitter account as well. I had the first period over as a client play for the Boston and Colorado game. What happens? Well, there was one goal. Second period, I tweet out, hey guys, take the over 5.5 live. I believe we saw 4 goals in that second period. So it kind of hurt to see my first period over lose and see that happen in the second period. But it was an exciting day yesterday, Carm. We had pretty much hockey from start to finish from the afternoon all the way until the nighttime. So how was your night last night?
It was good. 4-1 day. So the last week's good run bled over into Monday, 2-0 in afternoon soccer with a couple easy winners, and then 2-1 in NHL last night. So I was pretty happy about my Monday. I enjoyed that. I think I tweeted out at one point that the Canadiens might have to score all 7 goals because I had over 6 in that game, and it didn't look like the Leafs were going to score any goals in that game. I'm going to say this about that. I'm always hard on the Leafs, but it has more to do with my friends who are diehard Leaf fans than like Leaf Nation. If I don't know you and you're a Leaf fan, this has nothing to do with you. So if you take offense to it, so be it. But I think we saw last night, and we've seen it throughout the year, and the team, when the team's scoring, you don't see it. But the team, I'm sorry, they are, come playoff time, they just don't have the toughness. To me, they are soft. What is Simmons doing on the bench when this team is losing 3-0, 4-0, 5-0? Normally, you see a team out there, we've seen it, guys, over the years. A team is down 3 or 4 goals. The coach sends someone out, stir something up, throw a body check, get into a fight. This team has done none of that. We saw, the only guy, and you got to give him credit, Jason Spezza, the only guy out there who seems like he has a heart on this team. Maybe I'm overreacting. You can tell me I am, but I'm sorry. This team, year in, year out, has this problem that does not show the heart. And come playoff time, they get bounced in the first round. The last time the Leafs made it out of the playoffs or out of the first into the second round of the playoffs? Facebook was launched. 2003, Facebook was launched by Mark Zuckerberg. That's the last time the Leafs won a first round in the playoffs. Hockey Nation, I don't know. Buster, how you doing? How was that vacation?
Well, the big, as you said last week, I actually watched the show one of the nights I was away on my vacation, and I see that you guys were kind of MFing me about how can I be on vacation when I live right on the beach. Well, you know what? Sometimes you have to get away from the beach and go to another beach. So, but anyways, everything's all good. Everything's all good. I had a great night last night. Put out a 5% play for $9 over at Sports Memo. Cashed it quite easily. Was in the third period at the Vancouver over. Didn't understand when all the money was coming in and pounded that thing almost to 5.5 even on the over, which, you see that, I think to myself, okay, I know what I'm seeing. So it was a nice win, and just happy to be here this week to talk hockey with you two good-looking boys.
We're happy to have you, Buster, and I do have to give you credit for a golf winner the other week. It's been fun following along with you. I'm happy that after the jokes we went through every single Monday of me asking you for golf picks, and you said, "Hey, reach out to me." Well, I finally did, and now I've got some golf picks to cheer on every weekend, which is a lot of fun. But let's jump into our first game here tonight, guys. We have the Nashville Predators and the Florida Panthers going head-to-head. Florida, they're minus 210 at home. Nashville plus 175. Total sits at 6.5 in this one. And look, the Nashville Predators to me are a team that you guys all know. If you've watched this show throughout the year, you know I didn't give them enough credit at certain points. But now if you look at it, it's been 4 straight losses for them. They've given up at least 4 goals in all of those games. They're coming off a game where they allowed 5 goals against Carolina. This is a team that is just not playing well defensively, and now you're going to ask them to go up against the Florida Panthers team that it makes it look easy scoring 4 or 5 goals on a nightly basis. To me, I don't think that Nashville can snap out of things against this Florida team, especially on the road. One thing in mind, though, we got this Florida team coming off a game against Chicago, and I always say be careful when you have a team the caliber of Florida coming off a game against kind of a weaker opponent like Chicago is. Then you step in and play Nashville, kind of a more tough opponent. Could be a bit of a wake-up call here. But, guys, I have to look towards Florida here. I think the puck line's actually a play. But you know me, these days I've been all about those team totals, whether it's 3.5 or 4.5. I think we see goals in this one, especially from Florida. So, Carm, I'm not really impressed with Nashville's defense right now, and I think Florida will take advantage of it.
Yeah, we looked at this game. We talked about the Minnesota Wild and Florida a few days back on the show. And, I liked Florida going into Minnesota. And I said, the price was absolutely right on it. Florida was, I think, minus 130 in that game. I liked the price. And I said, I expected them on this road trip to finish off with wins in Minnesota and then a win in Chicago on Sunday. And they really didn't disappoint. This is going to be, now they're returning home off a road trip. And it was obviously a longer road trip, but this will be their 4th game in 7 nights. First home where I normally like to fade a team, but this team I think is 23-3 at home. It's a phenomenal run that they're on. They're just such a tough team to beat right now. And then you have Nashville, who I talked about them as well too. Listen, Saros is a good goalie, but he can only do so much for that team. And this is a Nashville team that in years past, last couple of years, they're the type of team that when they hit a losing streak, it is not a 2 or 3 game losing streak. It bleeds over into like 5, 6, or 7 games. I've seen it done, and it just seems that's where they are right now. Obviously, it's a tough road trip. You start off in Carolina against a team hungry for a win, and then you've got to go to Florida. Not a good combo for them. But Florida is the only way to go here. I think you grab Florida and you tie them in. So if you don't want to play that line, you can take a regulation line, or you tie them in to a parlay. As far as the total goes, I think you have to look at the over here in this game, Andrew. I wouldn't be surprised, and last night will show you, of an underdog coming in a spot where nobody expects them to win in a game. This one's on the road. Montreal yesterday was at home. The underdogs will jump up and bite you. This is why you can't lay a ton of juice sometimes, and I stay away from those minus 180s and up. But I'm not going to jump in front of a Florida team that's only lost 3 of their last 26 at home. So give me the Panthers here. Buster?
Yeah, you guys make a couple good points on both Florida and the total. You mentioned Carmine. Florida's 23-3. They're really good. Like you also mentioned, this is going to be their first home game off a 5-game road trip. They've actually won 8 of their last 9. I think we were talking about this maybe a few weeks ago about Nashville, how they tend to slump. You did mention it, Carmine. They've lost 5 out of their last 6. I still think they're a pretty good club. tough spot here. Tough spot for Nashville after not playing that well to come here. The only little benefit they have is because it's the first home for Florida here. But in saying that, this is going to be Florida's first home game since like the 22nd of January. So they haven't played a home game in a month. So I think they will come out and take care of Nashville here. As always, I will never lay 200. I really think Florida in regulation, I think it's minus 140 right now. That might be the play. Not too sure if I want to lay the puck line here because, as you say, Soros can't stand on his head all the time, but he can play good enough. As far as the total here, yeah, can't blame anybody for betting this over, but it is 6.5. And sometimes I caution, depending, but there's going to be a game coming up here that we'll talk about where it doesn't matter what the total is. But if you look at that, Florida has 21-8 their last 29 games to the over. Nashville, on the road, their last 8, 7-1. But for me, I really want no part of this over. And here's why. With Florida being that first home after a long road trip, also, little stat here for all the berries just jumping on that over because it's 6.5 minus 20 or minus 25 right now. Just a little stat just to be cautious. At Sunrise, 8-1 to the under. That's a tough stat to go against. I will not want no part of this total, but give me Florida in regulation.
Florida in regulation, and all of us kind of can't really argue the over in this game. Two teams that can definitely score, and let's the Florida defense isn't a brick wall by any means either. So Nashville couldn't get theirs, but all of us seem to like Florida and the over as well. Our next game up here, guys, I'll tell you what, I like the over in this game here. St. Louis Blues, the Philadelphia Flyers head-to-head. Philadelphia at home in the city of brotherly love, plus 190. St. Louis minus 220 on the road as they continue their road trip. Total is at 6 here. And guys, looking at Philadelphia, the amount of goals they've allowed, we're talking 4, 5, 5, 4, 6. I mean, it has not been pretty for this Philadelphia Flyer team. However, they have played some really tough opponents recently, including Carolina, including Washington, including Pittsburgh. Those are not easy opponents to play against. And to their credit, they've played them relatively close. 2 of those games were 1-goal games, and the other one, they scored a couple goals. This Philadelphia team has played some tough competition, but they're finding a way to score themselves. The problem is their defense has been very weak. Their power play has been very minimal. They're not getting stops at all. And St. Louis comes to town, a team that has an outstanding power play, a very powerful offense with lots of scorers around there, and defensemen that will jump into the rush and make things very difficult for you, adding a fourth forward. Buster, when I look at this one, we got St. Louis, on the other hand. They're playing their 4th game of an East Coast road trip here. To me, this all adds up to be an over. I expect goals here. I think St. Louis wins this game, but I think Philadelphia gets their fix as well, and we get over 6. Do you agree here with me?
Believe it or not, brother, I actually do agree with you there. Back-to-back for Philly, and they actually, if you watch that game yesterday, they deserved a way better fate, didn't they? Kind of like even Winnipeg against Calgary. These big favorites yesterday, they almost all lost. Philadelphia, even in overtime, I don't know if you watched that game, Anderson makes 2 unbelievable saves in that overtime, and then Carolina comes score. So Philly are trying to play better, but you know what? That's got to be really just a bad loss, even though Philadelphia just keeps losing anyways. They just can't find a way to win, bottom line. And as far as St. Louis, playing really, really well lately. St. Louis is actually 6-0. With a couple days rest, which they have here. 14-4. Their last 18 is a favorite. Of course, as everybody knows, not laying 205 on the road. That's for sure. But Husso should start today. I haven't seen the starters. I know Hart got hurt yesterday somehow, and they put Jones in. I haven't seen anything yet, but it looks like Jones might even have to go back-to-back, or they'll maybe bring somebody up, but he might play back-to-back. that's never good for anybody, really. You know what I mean? So anyways, check your goalies, of course, like always, but it doesn't really matter. I think this is a good over. I like St. Louis in regulation. As for people that want to bet the total, St. Louis and Philly, they are over. Philadelphia's been to over the last 5 games, and they're also 4-1 with no rest. So on to the over. So again, I think it's just a super bad spot for Philadelphia here, playing a rested St. Louis club. Again, not laying 205. I'll lay the 130 in regulation and bet it over.
Carm, what do you think here? I mean, Philadelphia just continues to find ways to lose, like Buster was just talking about. They're on the second half of back-to-back. They competed yesterday. You know, we can definitely give them credit for that. Obviously, they couldn't get the job done. What are your thoughts here in this game, Carm?
Yeah, you know, the problem is we're seeing, excuse me, we're going to see a lot of lines as this second half of the season progresses. We're going to see a lot of these big numbers, and they are very hard to bet these numbers. You're going to have to look at, you know, when I'm looking at the total here, excuse me, guys, I'm sorry. We're going to have to look at, I'm looking at the total here, and you're going to have to look to see who the starting goalie is for this Philadelphia team, because I don't think they're going to go Marty Jones back-to-back. Carter Hart was scratched yesterday because of an eye infection. Now, they did say they thought he would be fine with the night off. But you know, they brought up. Let me see if I can pronounce this guy's name right, Kirill Ustamenko, and you know, he's played for Lehigh Valley Phantoms for Reading Royals. He didn't win a game for Lehigh for the Royals. He went 8-3-2 with a 2.71 goals against average. You very much, if Carter Hart's not fully healed and not ready to go, you're going to see him in goal tonight. This just, you know, the Flyers aren't playing for anything at this point. You know, they're mired with 40 points. I think they're 4th or 5th from the bottom. Their season is pretty much toast. And we saw yesterday they put in a spirited effort. Against Carolina, taking that game to overtime. But there's not much left in the tank the next day, I don't think, for this team. If they put this emergency goalie in, this could be a one-sided St. Louis Blues game. I think it's a one-sided St. Louis Blues game regardless. But I'm going to keep an eye on the goalies and that total. If I see an uptick in that price, right now the 6 is at -120 on the over. If I see that going to like a -125, -130, it signals that line is going to move to 6.5. I'm going to jump on it at 6. And watch for the news on the goalies. We'll see if Carter Hart gets named as confirmed as a starter. Right now he's projected, but we'll see what happens with the morning skate this morning. But we could see Kirill between the pipes, and that could be a time to feast for the St. Louis Blues tonight.
It feels like it's been a goaltending problem, Carm, for the Philadelphia Flyers for about 6-7 years now. Maybe a little bit less time, but I mean, it's just, I think there was one season where they had 7 goaltenders in net. There's definitely been some problems there. I hope Carter Hart can get the consistency going. He can be the number 1 for a long time, but there definitely has been some problems in Philadelphia with their goaltending situation. Carm, I want to go to you for our next game with the Maple Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Obviously, we got the Maple Leafs in the second half of their back-to-back after that performance we talked about at the start of the show, but they're -235, as you mentioned. We are going to see a lot of different big prices right now. I mean, I was listening to NHL radio the other day, and pretty much the guy that was talking said there's about 7 or 8 teams in the league that he thinks are solid. Every other team is going to be, you know, lower prices or are going to be big prices against them. Columbus are +190 here. You can get them +1.5, -130. As far as the puck line for the Leafs go, it's +110. Before we jump into that play, though, Carm, I just want to give a little shout out that you have a 5% play going tonight in the NHL. If you want to tell us about that, feel free to do so. But best of luck with that play, my friend, and we'll get your thoughts on the Leafs and Jackets game.
Yeah, it's been a positive year. At least 2022 started off pretty well with the 5% plays, 9-3, I believe, or 8-3 with them. and I think 5-1 in NHL. But I don't get too high on them, Andrew. It's all of my hockey plays over the last couple of weeks have all been 4% plays. I think in 2022 they've all been 4% plays, like a 17-7 run. So the highs and lows are always there, guys. I don't want to get high on one play because you're never as good as your best winning streak, and you're never as bad as your worst winning streak. You just try and make some money. So hopefully we'll make some as far as tonight's play goes. You look at this game, Andrew, and the Leafs, they get the luxury of facing Jean-Francois Berube. He'll be in goal tonight between the pipes. He's confirmed between the pipes against the Leafs tonight. And the funny thing is it's a game that Toronto's supposed to win. They were supposed to win last night. It's a game that they're supposed to win by margin again tonight. Will they do it? You have to believe if there's any pride in that dressing room after what happened yesterday, and a loss is just a loss. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether they lost 5-2 to Montreal or if they had lost 2-1 in overtime. It is still a loss. It's the media and the fans who overreact to this, to fire this guy, trade this guy, get rid of this guy. The Leafs will come out. They should win here in this spot. The total is absolutely ridiculous at 7 in this game, but I see it and I understand it, but I would never bet it. It's 7 juice to the under at -120 would make the total 6.5, about -130 or 135 on the over, the true 6.5 price, because we don't see a lot of 7s in this game. If you like the Leafs and you think they bounce back, take them on the puck line. You're getting even money -1.5 on that line. I got to think the Leafs bounce back. If they lose tonight, it could be you're going to see a lot of stuff on Twitter, not from me, not from Andrew, not from Buster, but from Leafs Nation and how unhappy they are. But with that said, Leafs -1.5 is the play here. Buster?
Well, Carmine, I'm going to maybe tend to disagree with you. Sometimes I like to do that, especially when going against that Toronto club. How nice was that last night? Even though, as I said here, very, very disappointed with my Montreal Canadiens, but there's a little bit of light with Martin St. Louis in there. They look like they're actually wanting to play, which they didn't for about 3 months. They just didn't even care. So at least when you want to play and you're playing a club like Toronto, who basically, like Edmonton, are just overrated offensive players and no heart. You said it all, Carmine, a little bit earlier. And now they have to play a back-to-back after getting beat by their biggest rival. Come to Columbus. And I know it's Toronto, and everybody has this thought process that they can't lose. Just let me take you back a little bit. When Edmonton was losing those games 2 or 3, and I remember coming on here telling you that Minnesota was like 18-4 or something. Edmonton was like -140 against Minnesota, and they'd already lost a couple. And Minnesota beat them again that day, and they beat them again. Edmonton reminds me of Toronto. Same way. A lot of great talent, but they just, they need something else to put it together. Not even too sharp. Watch hockey for a lot of years. Maybe it's just Toronto. I don't know. But anyways, that attitude in that locker room, you mentioned it, Carmine, they got to look at each other and say, okay, better look in the mirror here. We just lost probably one of the worst teams in hockey last night. And now they got to come to Columbus after losing. They've lost 4-6. It's not like they've been doing much. Here's a Columbus club that won 7 out of 9. They went into Toronto and gave them a great game, only lost 5-4. And that's when Toronto was supposedly playing well. So I personally believe, not that I'm going to bet it, but I personally believe Columbus can be a live dog here, for sure. But of course, are you going to go back? Who's going to go back if you went and laid 400 last night, or even 220 in regulation, or something stupid like that, whatever they were? Who's going to go back and lay that big number again tonight just because they should win? Believe me, it's the NHL, guys. There's no should wins around here. Everybody is good. Anybody can knock each other off. And Columbus is a pretty good home team. What I love here is the over. I gave it out to my clients last night, 6.5 over. You're saying that it's up 7. I saw still 6.5, so it doesn't matter. Back in the day, this total would be one of those games that would be 7.5, maybe even 8, and we'd still all jump on it over. So Columbus is 23, 8-1. Last 32 games is a dog to the over. Toronto are 20-6-1 to the over. The over 6, 2-1 the last 9 between these clubs in Columbus. Goals. 7.5, doesn't matter. This game's going to be 5-4, 6-5, whatever. And hopefully Columbus beats the team that is going to have to win, don't they? Because they just lost against Montreal. So anyways, that's my little take. And go Habs, go.
Go Habs, go. He finishes it off with go Habs, go. Buster, listen, Buster, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with me and stuff. And you mentioned that, that I did start off beginning of the show talking about the Leafs being soft. It's funny because it reminds me of a story, and this I'm going to age myself, working at the Fan 590 in Toronto. And I would run a charitable golf tournament each and every year for Blue Review Children's Hospital. And I'd get a lot of the players to come out. I'd get teams from the NHL to send me autograph stuff and donate stuff. The only team, one time I called out the Leafs on the radio because Christy Fletcher, who worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time, sent nothing, and she didn't like it and complained to the station. Ty Domi showed up at the tournament. He showed up each and every year I ran the tournament. He showed up, and I remember driving the cart while the tournament was going on, and I got to where Domi was, and I'm talking to Domi, and you know what he says to me? He goes, my 5-iron? I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty good. He goes, it's not soft. And it's because I had mentioned the Leafs being soft back then on the radio. And I think he was threatening me with the 5-iron, but I'm not quite sure. But that reminds me of the soft thing. So there's a history of that going backwards. But Andrew, quickly before we go to the next game, you sent me a tweet that I think it was Jared had sent out yesterday, tweeted out that teams minus 400 or over were something like 24-2. But only 3 units up, and that was before the Leafs game. So can you imagine going 24-3, betting teams minus 400 and over, and you're losing money? That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous. If you look at that record, we'll get your thoughts, Buster. But it's crazy, man, because you go have that 24-2, and yet you're only up 3 units. Then add up last night after laying minus 400 with the Leafs. If anybody actually did that, then you would be negative. You'd be 24-3 and negative units if you played all the biggest favorites we've seen over the last couple of years. Buster, I know that you always preach about not playing those, but you got to say that is a hilarious stat. I mean, on the season, minus 200 favorites or better have done really well, but that's the minus 400 favorites over the past several years are now 24-3, a negative EV bet. That's unbelievable.
It actually is, Andrew. But the only reason I say this is because of just experience. Even on the road, at the end of the day, I don't really care about all these stats because these stats bring on that you have to bet every one of those minus 240. And people are not going to do that. I've mentioned this on here before. So those stats you can kind of throw out. All I'm saying is we try in this show, I come on once a week and just try to help people that there's a lot of guys that, there's a ton of guys in this chat room that know hockey just as well as the three of us. But there's a lot of people that come on, they find us, it's new. I just want to help them to say, don't do it. There's just better, like even on the road, minus 170, minus 1, just don't do it. If you're thinking about doing it, just run your head into the wall and see how much that hurts. And then whenever time you decide to put in that bet at minus 180, minus 190 on the road, think of that and go, you know what? I don't think I should do that. There's better things to bet with your money. That's all I'm saying. Stat-wise, whatever, but that just kind of proves my point, I guess. We all know how hard it is to go 24-3. I mean, almost impossible. So, anyways,
and it's a negative bet.
That's the only reason I mention it, right? That's all.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I just thought that was a really funny stat, the fact that you can be 24-3 and be negative money, which is pretty incredible. Buster, you mentioned about expecting goals, thinking it might be a closer game than some might expect. I think that we could see Columbus score as well. One thing interesting, I've been talking a lot on the show about team totals. So if you think Columbus can make it a game, obviously I think if you like this bet, you like the full game over as well. Columbus's team total is 2.5. Most of the time in the NHL, you see it at 3.5. For example, the Leafs are 3.5 minus 175. You can get the Columbus Blue Jackets over 2.5 minus 130. So they could get destroyed 6-3 and you still win your wager. Obviously, that would cast the full game over as well. But if you like an upset, and I've been telling people I've been doing that. Some might say, well, why not just take Columbus plus 190? And I've been trying to tell people because if I take the underdog's team total, sure, I'm not getting the big plus price, but I can afford to win that bet with them scoring 3 goals and losing 4-3 or 5-3. It can still lose the game and win your bet for you, which is what I love about team totals. So if you like Columbus tonight, I'm not saying don't sprinkle on that money line, but I'm saying that's a pretty good bet there with over 2.5 on that team total. But Buster and Carm kind of ran through a lot of things I was going to say, guys. There was one thing that I was going to mention for the Toronto Maple Leafs was they're 7-2 the last 9 when they've scored 2 or fewer goals in their previous game. And there's only a couple teams in the league that I really take that stat serious with, and the Maple Leafs are one of them. Whenever they get embarrassed or whenever they don't have a good performance, especially against a rival team, they usually come out and play well the next day. It's like Buster was saying, it's like Carm was saying. Obviously, the price dictates it as well, but we're all expecting it to happen. We think it should happen. Will it happen? Probably not, but 7-2 last 9 times. They're coming off kind of a disappointing game. They've played pretty well. So maybe a potential play for the first period puck line as well for the Maple Leafs. But I expect goals in this one as well. I was targeting that Leafs team total personally, but there's no way I'd look for minus 175. I would just join Buster on that full game, 6.5 at a way better price than that. But it should be an interesting game. Obviously, the Blue Jackets right now are just completely playing spoiler. Their playoff hopes are kind of terminated. But I wanted to mention as well, guys, Columbus, they are 31st in the National Hockey League in goals allowed. The only team worse than them, well, I don't even want to say it, the Montreal Canadiens. So Columbus allows goals. They've had goaltending problems this year as well, defensive problems, and they've been kind of a sneaky over. So I wouldn't be scared of this 6.5 in this game, fellas. I would not be worried about that one. Let's talk about our next game. Buster, I'll go to you with our next one. We're taking a look at the Sharks and the Ducks. We've got this Anaheim team minus 150. The Sharks on the road plus 130. Totals at 5.5. Buster, I'll hand the mic over to you.
Yeah, this, Andrew, could be probably one of the toughest games on the board to handicap. San Jose, they just have been terrible, right? They've lost, I think they've won 2 games out of their last 10. And it's a one-off road game. Because of the COVID situations, you're going to get a few of these. And the ones I've noticed so far, these ones that are one-off, the team hasn't really looked that good playing that one-off, because San Jose, they play here, then they go back home for 3 more games. So taking Anaheim in this game looks like the play. For me, though, I just don't like the way Anaheim's really been playing. Even though they won in Vancouver the other night, they've lost 5 out of their last 8. This is a first game at home, and it's off a bit of a road trip, and it's also it's going to be their first start of a 6-game homestand. Sometimes, you kind of just settle in a little bit knowing that you're going to be at home for a while. So, yeah, on both, there's a lot of things I don't like to take either of these sides. That's for sure. What I will be on, it might not make my card, but what I do kind of like is the under here. The under 5.5, I think you can get plus money right now. The under is 6-1 last 7 road games for San Jose. The under is also 7-3 after the Ducks win a game, which they scored a lot of goals against Vancouver. And the under is 5-1-1 the last 7 games between these guys. So, again, I actually really do find it a tough game because Anaheim, who used to be a nut under team back, even as early in October, November, now they turned to be an over club. So, for me, I would take the under here. Not sure if it's going to make my card, but the other 5 games are a little bit better to bet, if you ask me.
What about you, Carm? Any action for you in this game?
If it comes, it's going to come late. It won't be on my initial card. And Buster and I are probably going to be on the opposite ends of this one because I'll likely look to the over on this one. It's the returning home off a road trip one, and as Buster said, they used to be and I was a nut under. We talked on previous shows where if you just took the Anaheim team total under 2.5 every single game, you'd probably make money. Well, no, you'd be losing a boatload of money. You look at some of their scores, and there's some big score lines in there, and some big totals. They're good at home, 13-8-4 at home, but San Jose's equally has been equally as good on the road, going 11-11-2, and only a -2 goal differential for a team that's not in a playoff spot like San Jose is, or Anaheim. To have even on the road a very minimal plus-minus goal differential is actually very good. I think we see some goals here. It's tough to actually say that in Anaheim games, but the fact they're coming home, I would normally look to fade a team in the first off a road trip. I just think it might be a sloppy affair, and 5.5 seems attractive enough that I can go on and take the over in this game, Andrew.
Yeah, as far for me, guys, I'll let you guys figure out the total in this one, but I'm actually going to take the plus 165 with the Ducks if I was betting this one on the puck line. The San Jose Sharks, to me, they're inconsistent. Their defense is sloppy. And although that you guys know that I've been down on Anaheim pretty much, they were a sell for me since probably the new year. They're still a talented team with speed and lots of guys that can score. And San Jose, sure, they've had some games where they put up some good numbers, but I don't trust them in this matchup. And it's a pretty decent plus price here on the plus 165. So that's where I'd look, but there's really no action for me yet. We'll see if I can get some player props in. You guys check my Twitter. I usually tweet some of those out, or you can find them with my client plays at WagerTalk.com. Let's jump into some power plays, guys. Some best bets for today's show here on Tuesday's edition of Puck Time. I'll start with you, Carm, for your best bet on today's show.
All right, a couple of the games we discussed on today's card, I'm going to merge them into a parlay, Andrew, kind of like what you did yesterday. I'm going to take the St. Louis Blues in their game along with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see the Blues playing against a total mess right now, hot mess, that is the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Leafs looking to rebound off of that embarrassing performance last night. Take the money lines, you put them together, you get plus 104 on your money. I would never take the minus, those huge minus prices, so I can turn it into a plus money price here, and that's what I'll take. 2 afternoon Champions League soccer games up, 1 NHL 5% play, plus a couple of other NHL plays that are going to be added to the card. The 1 day all access, $39, gets every single play I have loaded today. So head over to WagerTalk.com and pick those up.
Excellent stuff. We'll go to you, Buster, for your best bet, and let everybody at home know what you have up for grabs for your clients tonight.
Okay, Andrew, thank you very much. Head over to sportsmemo.com. We have our college basketball best bet double play up. A couple of games in one package. Been really heating up in college basketball this last, probably since the beginning of the year. Number one in the last 30 days over there. We're on a nice 10-2-1 college basketball run. Just in time for the conference tournaments to start, and, of course, March Madness. Looking forward to all that. For my show best bet, 2 weeks ago I said if I would lost my usual first period bet, I wouldn't play another one. I'd play something else. Well, guess what? I won that first period bet. So guys that don't like these plays, sorry about that. Guys that like these plays, we have another one for you. Going to take the Islanders first period, puck line -0.5, plus 170. I like the fact that Sorokin's going to be a net for the Islanders. Seattle off a back-to-back. They They didn't look good at all last night. Vancouver dominated. That game could have been probably 10-2 instead of 5-2. Really think the Islanders, I know they're not really in it for the playoffs, that's for sure, but you never know. There's still 30-something games and get on a run. You know, Trotz isn't going to let these guys play. You know, he's going to make them play still. And I'd like them to get the jump on here. I don't think Seattle can score a goal in the first period, so if Islanders can get one, we got a nice winner. And best of luck to everyone out there. And I will say it, like I've said for over 3 years on Puck Time, whether the Prez was hosting the show and now Andrew, please do not bet big favorites. Thank you. Have a good day.
Always great to have you on the show, Buster, especially with those great plus prices on the first period. That's plus 170 there with Don Buster. Guys, for me, up at WagerTalk today, it's going to be the same thing you saw yesterday. I always recommend buying a big package, buying a day pass. I got the props. We've got sides. We've got totals. Don't buy just the one play. Better off getting it all. Like yesterday, had a kind of a bad start to the day. Ended on a great note. Ended 4-2, including props. Number 3 at WagerTalk 2022 and number 2 at WagerTalk this season in the NHL. My best bet for today, we're going to roll with that Flyers and Blues over 6. We got the Blues on that East Coast road trip. We've got the Flyers. They played a game yesterday. They've got some big goaltending issues. They're allowing goals. I think between both teams, we'll see some goals in this one. We'll get up and over the total of 6. So Blues, Flyers over 6 for me. We got Carmine. Nice little 2-teamer for tonight with St. Louis and Toronto. Plus 104. And Don Buster, the Islanders. First period puck line at plus 170. Thank you all for joining us, whether you're listening live or archived, podcast or YouTube. We do appreciate every single one of you. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below. Let us know what you like for tonight. Let us know what you're betting. And don't forget to hit that like button. On behalf of Carmine, Don Buster, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.